Welcome back to another episode of the Draft Dynasty Podcast. It is the penultimate episode before we get to the actual NFL draft. My name is Jeremy Betz, and I'm joined, as always, by my good buddy Andrew Wilbar. We're breaking down all things NFL draft. On this show, the Draft Dynasty Podcast, we always say whether it's fantasy or for real, we've got you covered on the Draft Dynasty Podcast. But right now, it is full throttle NFL draft. And like I said, next to last show, before the draft hits us, Andrew, this is one of your favorite episodes, favorite conversations. We're diving into the sleepers tonight. Thursday nights when we're recording, you'll hear this on Friday. But really looking forward to this one with you, Andrew. How you feeling?
Well, other than the fact that I've got some pink eye, I'm doing all right. So this is one of my favorite shows of the entire year. I absolutely love it because as much as I love talking about the premier guys of each draft class, and I enjoy talking any draft, you hear so much about it from the national media, and the national media is constantly pushing, quarterbacks, first rounders. And sometimes they'll sprinkle in some day two guys, but very rarely do you have them talking about these day three guys. When you look at the numbers, the majority of your roster is comprised of day three draft picks and undrafted free agents. That's what fills out your roster. And I find it one of the most fascinating things trying to find those diamonds in the rough. And I think there's several positions this year. I think we've already talked about running back, but there's going to be several other positions that even though the quality is not quite as what it's been the past couple of years, there's still going to be the diamonds in the rough that come out of nowhere that none of us expect. But it's so fun to talk about some of these guys that are intriguing. Some of them have really cool stories. Some of them are great athletes, just never had the chance to really produce because of depth or whatever at that position. But I tell you what, even though the depth is not good this year, we still came across some intriguing players, and maybe not as many as what there have been in previous years because we've talked about the depth of the class. But still, I think there's a lot of players that will make teams very happy with their special teams ability, a lot of things that they can do on day three.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a fantastic conversation that we're going to have here. I think that when you talk about the players who surprise us and impact seasons the most, a lot of times it's these late round rookies that come out of nowhere, or as a sophomore they've kind of just figured it out and they jump on the scene and absolutely change the narrative around football teams and divisions and conferences. And you look at the teams who draft really well. I always look back, Andrew, at that Saints class from 2017 that took them from, afterthought in the NFL to a team that just was competing for a Super Bowl again, with Drew Brees kind of winding down his career. And a lot of that had to do with the late day two and day three selections for a team that needed kind of a shock to their system to get them back in contention. You look at Washington last year, it wasn't just the first round picks. I mean, Jane Daniels was a big part of that, but they had contributors all over the field from that rookie class. So I think that we can look good after round one because these are the players that should be good players. We should be able to get a good grade on round one, but end of the year, couple years down the road, if you're nailing day three of the draft, that's how you can separate the contenders and the deepest rosters from the pretenders in the league. So let's dive right on into it, Andrew. Let's start with the quarterback position. Go ahead and give me your top sleeper at the quarterback spot. We'll kind of alternate through a couple guys each before moving on to the next position. We'll try to go through this at a decent pace, but this is a deep show, so we're going to dive into this one really good for you guys here. So stick with us, but Andrew, go ahead and give us your first quarterback.
First quarterback I'm going to mention, because I do think that there's a chance he does fall to day three, so I'm going to count him in here, and that would be Kyle McCord from Syracuse. His growth from Ohio State to Syracuse, I'm not trying to compare him to Joe Burrow or anything like that, but the level of a jump that he made in that 1 year was very similar to that of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was not that good at Ohio State either. he goes and it completely revamps his entire career trajectory. And you look at Kyle McCord, he's got a solid arm, not elite, but he's got a very good arm. He's got good zip on intermediate throws. And just his mechanics as a whole were so much better this year. His footwork inside the pocket, his poise inside the pocket, his decision-making under pressure was way better. Those are still all areas he has to improve. He hasn't arrived yet. But when you look at the tape, and yeah, maybe he didn't have quite as much competition this past year in the ACC as what he had when he was at Ohio State. But even in the somewhat more challenging games, he remained calm under pressure, made good decisions for the most part. There were a couple questionable ones. He's not going to get you a bunch of yards on the ground, but he, we've seen his athleticism. He can move out of the pocket. He can gain you a first down when the pocket breaks down. There's a lot of things to like about Kyle McCord. I did not think I would have said that about him this time last year. But when you have so many different experts of the quarterback position. The name is slipping me now, but I mentioned him a couple times on the show. The quarterback whisperer who's done some evaluation with him.
Jordan Palmer,
thank you. Jordan Palmer's done some work with him, and he says, hey, Jalen Milroe and Kyle McCord, people aren't talking enough about. These guys are going to play for a long time. They've got that it factor in them. So I'm going to take his word for it here, and I bought into the Kyle McCord stock. If he's there in round 4, I think a team's going to find a nice value.
I agree with that 100%. I've grown on him a lot in this pre-draft process and after watching his tape at Syracuse, because I'll just be honest, poor taste in my mouth for this guy after he left Ohio State, just because I didn't see it out of him at Ohio State. I saw a lot of inconsistency and a lot of issues that I did not think were going to translate to the NFL. But you look at the body of work, you look at the NFL size, and I think honestly underrated athleticism. He's not going to run away from anybody, but he can get out on the move if he needs to and make plays as necessary. So I think that he's got a chance to be at very least a good backup in this league with a chance to be more. So I'm excited about McCord's prospects going into this draft, and I think NFL teams should be as well. My next one is he's right after McCord on the consensus board, and it's Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. The thing that jumps out to me with Gabriel, it's not the size, right? He's 6 foot tall. He's only 200 pounds, very much a Bryce Young body type, if you will, maybe a couple inches taller overall than Bryce Young is, but still you've got a smaller quarterback, but the arm talent is there, right? There were points throughout his college career where we're like, if he takes the next step, he could put himself into early round consideration as a prospect that never really developed, but he's got real zip on the football, undeniable arm talent. He reminds me of Baker Mayfield from an arm talent perspective, where it's like a guy this like smallish should not be able to throw the ball like this, but he's not as complete a prospect as Baker Mayfield ever was, or sorry, Gabriel will never be as complete a prospect as Baker Mayfield was, is what I'm trying to say. But I still think that there's some juice there, that in the right system, I think he's a system type quarterback that needs to be able to quick read and get the ball out. And I think he's got a chance to be something at the NFL level. So he is my top sleeper at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, Gabriel makes a lot of sense. I think he'd be a great fit for a team like Miami, who already has a left-handed quarterback, and they could bring him in and could potentially be a nice backup to Tua. I think that would be a great system fit for Gabriel as well when you look at the way that he played in college. I'll give you one other name to keep an eye on, and that's Tommy Mellott from Montana State. This guy's got insane dual threat athleticism. This guy's got very good speed. He's very dangerous as a runner. You cannot let this guy go. He had, I believe, over 1,000 rushing yards this past year. He completed about 67% of his passes. Not a high volume passer by any means, but if you're talking about a guy who could potentially be a Taysom Hill, Julian Edelman type player, I think Tommy Mellott is that type of guy who could play quarterback in a pinch if you needed him to. And if he can develop more as a passer, who knows? He doesn't have the great measurables. He's only around the 6 foot area, not super sturdy build, but there's not like durability concerns with him based on what we've seen in college. He's very calm under pressure. He has a very nice deep ball, got solid arm. It's very alive. Puts good zip on throws outside the numbers. there's a lot to like about Tommy Mellott. If he's there in the 6th or 7th round, I think he'd be a great pickup for some team. He may be a practice squad type guy, but he's a guy who can stick. You can teach him to catch passes. You can do a lot of different tricks with a guy like Tommy Mellott.
Absolutely. A couple other names I'll mention. Curtis Rourke had a really strong start to his season at Indiana. He's got NFL size and an NFL arm, and he's got some athleticism. It just never got beyond what we saw out of him the beginning of the season. In fact, it deteriorated pretty quickly for Indiana as the middle of the season came through. And then, I just like his upside because of the NFL size, prototype quarterback size, if you will. And we saw some flashes, enough to make you think that there could be something there with good coaching. Donovan Smith from Houston is another one. Big arm, big body, dual threat type quarterback. If you're trying to bring in an undrafted free agent quarterback, you can do worse than Donovan Smith, I think, as a really deep sleeper flyer there. So, all right, let's move on, Andrew. Let's get to the deepest position group in this draft class. It's the running back group, and we've hit a lot of these guys, and it's hard to really, you have to go way down the board to find some good sleepers here because there's just so many good ones that have draftable grades. But let's start with your top one. Who you got at the running back spot that you're saying this is a sleeper? We need to get him in our building, and he could give us some juice that maybe we're not thinking about. You're muted.
Sorry, my mic was muted. I think what you said was exactly right in the fact that where do you draw the line with these running backs, because it is so deep. Like, where's the third rounders compared to the 5th rounders to the 6th rounders? It's all bunched up together. Like, I don't think any of us would be surprised if Jaden Blue or DJ Giddens go early 3rd round, but I don't think we'd be surprised if they fall to the late 5th either, just because of how deep the draft is. It's going to be just your flavor. What type of running back do you want? What fits with your system? How well did they interview? I'm going to give you my true top guy, and I will be a homer here. I'm going to go with Donovan Edwards. I think that this guy, if his vision can improve, he has a chance to be an elite running back in the NFL. He's got every tool in the book. He is a great in-between the tackles runner. He's got power. He's got elusiveness. He can catch passes out of the backfield, and he gives great effort and pass protection. He checks all of those boxes. It's just as a runner, he doesn't always find the hole. And that is one of the biggest things, that could be a crutch to him in the NFL. I think of Darrell Henderson. That would honestly, if I had to come up with a comp for a guy like Donovan Edwards, it's Darrell Henderson, who I compared to Jamal Charles coming out. I loved Darrell Henderson, but the only problem with him was he couldn't always find the hole. If Donovan Edwards can overcome that, he's got a chance to be a fantastic running back. I really do believe that. That's the one thing to keep an eye on with him. But I tell you what, once you get that 4th, 5th round, it is so worth the risk when he's there. He's one guy. And then a couple other guys in that level I'll mention real quick would be an RJ Harvey, who I think is another great pickup. And then I already mentioned Jaden Blue. I have a couple of the later guys, but those are kind of the early day 3 guys that I wouldn't have a problem with the team taking on day 2.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love Donovan Edwards. And it's a love-hate relationship because of what he's done to my Buckeyes.
Love-hate.
But as a prospect, you can't help but love like that foot in the ground, hit 4th gear and go when he's actually out in the open field. You're absolutely right, though. If the hole's not there, it's been a struggle for him. But if you've got a good offensive line in place and you want a guy who can spell your starter and give you a chance to take it to the house from anywhere on the field, he makes a lot of sense. Andrew, I think he makes a ton of sense for the Chargers as a complement to Najee Harris, right? The kind of that grind it out for 3-4 yards guy on every run to pace it with a Donovan Edwards. You have the ties, obviously, to Jim Harbaugh, so that makes sense. And then you've got a rising offensive line with Rashawn Slater there and a bunch of other pieces that they've added, Joe Alt from last year. So why not pair a boom or bust running back? Let's be real. But with that type of setup, you have a real chance to hit the boom side of that as opposed to the bust side of it more often than not there.
Yeah, I'll give you another team, the Baltimore Ravens, too, with John Harbaugh. We're sitting behind Derrick Henry in that power running scheme. I think that would make a lot of sense schematically as well.
Yep. It would. And we've seen Keaton Mitchell. He's got some dynamite abilities, but he's just not built to handle the NFL beating that you take as a running back. The injuries have piled up for him already in his short career. So I think Donovan Edwards is more suited physically for the NFL. I think he would be a good replacement type for the Ravens there in that situation. I'm going to go with South Carolina running back Raheem Sanders. This is a big dude, 6'1", 230 pounds. He's kind of a battering ram where you just kind of turn and hand him the ball and say, run at the first opening you see as hard and fast as you can. And if it's arm tackles in the hole, he's going to break through those. And he has actually surprising speed once he gets out in the open for a guy who looks that big. So I like him as kind of a late round thunder goal line guy who maybe can step in short yardage for teams who are looking for a quote unquote tush push alternative at the running back spot, like a traditional one, if you will, for short yardage. That's the kind of guy I like. I like Kyle Monangai from Rutgers too. I think he's got some really good traits. And then I'm gonna go further down the list here, Andrew, to Cincinnati running back Corey Kiner. I don't know what your thoughts on Kiner are, but I saw some flashes on his tape that were really promising. Kind of that sneaky vision to where he's just almost hard to, just slippery, I guess, hard to tackle when you get your hands on him. Did you like Corey Kiner's tape? I kind of felt like he's being slept on in this draft class as well.
Yeah, there's some parts about his game that almost remind me a little bit of Kyron Williams. And I don't exactly know how to put my finger on it, but other than what you were saying, that elusiveness, the vision, not about, I just, there's something about his game that's still missing. But then again, I was low on Kyron Williams too. I didn't have a high grade on him, and sure enough, he's turned out to be a really good running back. So
right.
I do think that the vision is definitely there. The question for me is, how effective can he be in the open field? One is a receiver in the NFL, and I'm not sure if he has that breakaway speed. So his upside might be a little bit limited. But if you're talking about a guy who could be a Kyron Williams in the right offense, I think a McVay or Shanahan system that has a lot of zone blocking, I believe that is the type of offense that would be the best fit for him. Maybe he's a guy that San Francisco would consider. I know that they're going to be looking at running back probably before he would be off the board. They're probably going to look at it on day 2, but I definitely think a team like that would be a good fit for a guy like Kyron.
Let me ask you this question before we leave the running backs, just because there's so many of them, and we'll catch up at another spot here in this episode to try to keep things rolling. But if you had to pick a day 3 guy, a consensus day 3 guy that you would take over a consensus day 1 or day 2 guy, is there that type of situation where you would say, I would take this guy who's being projected as a 4th round pick over this guy who's being projected as a 2nd round pick?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I want to mention one other name before I forget, because I had one I just want to get your thoughts on as well. And I really do like this guy, Kylan James from UNLV. Very similar to a couple of the guys that you've been talking about. 5'11", 226, a little bit bigger back. They ran a 4.45 at his pro day. He averaged over 7 yards a carry this year. Not in a lot of volume. It was about 80, 90 carries a year. But to me, that's even better because he doesn't have as much tread on the tires. And, the 7.7 3-cone was a little bit concerning. He's not great at changing direction. He's a very north and south runner, but 36-inch vertical, 9.11 broad jump. If you're looking for a north and south runner who can get it done on the goal line, I really like Kylan James.
Absolutely. And just to kind of clarify, I know you were looking at some stats and stuff, so my question probably went by you, but the question was, do you have a guy that's kind of like a consensus day 3 guy that you would take over somebody who's being mocked and projected for a 2nd round type pick or a 3rd round pick?
Okay, I understand that a little bit better now. I missed the first part of the question. I got day 3, so forgive me for that.
No worries.
I got so many different tabs open here, going through all the different players we got here. That the one downside of doing a sleeper show all in one. I've one guy that I would say that would fit. That would be, again, it's where do you draw the line? But I'm looking at the guys, would maybe a Damian Martinez be a fit in there? Like, I don't know where he goes off the board, but I think in the right system, you think of a team like New York, pair him with a Tyrone Tracy. I know they have a pick at the back end of the third round. I would take him over some of the guys that are going here in the second. You're talking about, I like Travion Henderson. I like Quinshon Judkins enough. My question is with some of these other guys that are in that range, say a Dylan Sampson, the one thing that would give me hesitation from taking him, even though I love the way he runs the football, is that he's not as versatile as what I'd like him to be at that size. He's got a lot of work to do in pass protection, and he's really not the best pass catcher. So because of those reasons, and he's not quite as complete a back at this point, I would be willing. I have Martinez rated lower, but if a team were to take him higher, I would understand taking him over a guy that's maybe in that late second round range. Henderson, Judkins, I think are pretty solid, safe picks. I've got Giddens up there too. Caleb Johnson's a solid pick. But if I had to choose one guy, Dylan Sampson, as much as I like, and I'm not going to change my rating on him, there is a higher bust potential with him than there would be some of these other running backs. So I can understand from that standpoint why you would maybe take a guy like Martinez, who I think is a pretty safe pick in terms of just short yardage area.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. Andrew, who's your top sleeper at wide receiver?
Dante Thornton Jr.
Yeah.
is my guy. He is not a high volume receiver, probably never will be, but he led, I believe, the entire SEC in yards per catch this year with like 25 yards per catch. It was absolutely insane. Had like 25 catches for like 560 yards or 600 yards, something insane.
I'm pretty sure he led the FBS in yards per reception.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me one bit. When you talk about Thornton, he is so much like Martavis Bryant. Martavis, I believe, had a little bit better. It was better at high pointing the football. And just a slightly more athletic, not by much, but slightly more athletic. Is well-rounded game. But if you're talking about speed, straight line, that true vertical threat down the field that has a big body that can get those passes that are a little bit inerrant and bring them in, man, I tell you what, an acrobatic catch guy, Dante Thornton is my guy that I want as that deep threat. Just keep running streaks, man. I don't care what else you do. I just want that guy on the roster as my fourth or fifth receiver that against certain teams that have suspect secondaries and I want to air it out, I can put him out there as a starter. And this guy's going to have me several Will Fuller type fantasy weeks where he'll go off. He'll do nothing for 3 weeks, but then he'll go off and have a 30-point fantasy game. I love Dante Thornton Jr. in that role. Most people don't like those inconsistent type receivers, but I want one of those guys on my team. Dante Thornton is my top sleeper.
I love it. I'm going to go with a guy right behind him on the consensus big board from NFL mock draft database. It's Isaac Tesla from Arkansas.
Yes.
This is a big body speed receiver too. And he reminds me, Andrew, of Alec Pierce a little bit. I think he's a little bit thicker built, but another one of those kind of straight line guys down the field, vertical threats. And he didn't get a lot. He didn't have a lot of production at Arkansas that you can say, I'm taking this guy over maybe like a Kyle Williams or something like that, that had a ton of production at the college level, but he has enough flashes where it makes a ton of sense to take a swing on a guy like that for a deep threat. And at this point with sleepers, you're looking for guys who can do specific things really well. And when you're talking about Dante Thornton, Isaac Tesla, I think you've got two guys that can get vertical really well.
I agree. And Alec Pierce was my comp for him as well. Very similar build. And this guy's got a good work ethic too. I'm going to give you a couple other names real quick. One we mentioned before, Tyrone Broden from Arkansas. That 6'7" receiver with 4.37 speed. He's got a 35-inch vertical, 11'4" broad jump. I mean, he absolutely outdid himself at that Arkansas Pro Day. Not the most productive guy, but he is a transfer. Previously played some MAC football. Was mildly productive. I had 500-600 yards for a couple seasons in a row. But I think he's a guy you bring in, another one of those height, weight, speed guys. Not really has so much on the weight, but the height and speed. Bring him in. Could be a field stretcher. Could be a red zone weapon. You can do a lot of things with him. I think we would be remiss not to mention our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers' head coach's son, Dino Tomlin. We got to at least mention him. I don't know that any team is going to draft him, but if he goes undrafted, I've got a weird question that Mike Tomlin may just pick up his son in undrafted free agency. 5'11", 182, not the biggest guy. He would be limited to the slot. but he did run a 4.45 at the BC Pro Day, 38-inch vertical. He's got good athleticism. He runs solid routes. Was not a big part of their offense, so the lack of production is very much concerning. But I think obviously the bloodlines, the connection to Mike Tomlin, he plays a creative game. He's a creative wide receiver. He creates space for himself, and I think that's going to be intriguing to a lot of teams. A couple other guys I'll mention real quick. Arian Smith from Georgia, another speed guy. Ty Felton, I think. I believe he could go on day 2 based upon just the production he had, the impact he had in that offense. Undersized, but if you use him in the right role, I think of how the Raiders have used some of these smaller receivers they've drafted the last couple of years. The receiver from Cincinnati they drafted a couple of years ago has had some nice games for them. They have a couple guys like that in the roster. I think Ty Felton could be that type of guy, be pretty impactful on special teams and in the return game as well, I think.
I like it. There's so many names in this wide receiver realm that you could talk about. I like Kanata Mumpfield from Pittsburgh. I think that he's got some game. The other Georgia receiver, Dominic Lovett, who was kind of their chain mover. He's a really, really good at finding the holes in the zone from the slot. He's a slot-only receiver at the next level, but I think he's got some upside in that role. Ricky White out of UNLV was higher initially for me than he has turned out to be, but I think that he's a guy that you could sleep on. And then Nick Nash. Nick Nash is getting some hype in recent weeks that I've seen around there, and I've noticed that when I went back and watched his tape as well. Just people talking about him. Daniel Jeremiah likes him a lot, so I went back and watched some of his tape, and he's got a lot to be excited about there too. So some good guys at wide receiver. Let's get to the tight ends, Andrew, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on tight ends. Give me a couple right off the top here that you like as sleepers in this tight end group.
CJ Dupree's got some physicality and athleticism from Alabama. I like him. One guy that absolutely had an incredible pro day was Shane Calhoun from Texas A&M. Not a productive guy at all by any stretch, but you talk about a 6'2", 245. He's going to be that slot mismatch. He ran a 4.48 and had an 11-foot broad jump, 39-inch vertical. I mean, for a tight end, that's absolutely insane. He's good. He's dangerous up the seams. When you go back and watch some of his tape, he does get open. He wasn't always targeted, and he's very low volume. But I do think there is some things to get excited about when you're talking about a guy like Shane Calhoun. Practice squad, most likely his first year, could potentially make the roster second year, and could become a nice role player down the road. And one other name that I will mention, another deep sleeper from NIU, Chris Carter. Not the Chris Carter formerly of the Steelers, a different one, but 6'6", almost 6'7", 243-pound slider frame. He's got the size to add more weight. I think he needs to, because he's not that effective as a blocker at this point. He won't be in the NFL. Ran a 4.62 at his pro day, 35-inch vertical. He's got solid athleticism. I think going up, there's still some route running things needs to work on. Needs to clean up a little bit on the underneath routes, quick cuts. But if you're talking about a red zone presence with that tall body type, think Donald Parham Jr.
Yeah.
I think this is that type of body. You can get him later in the draft, probably 7th round, could be available. Would be worth a swing for the fences here.
I've got one name for you, Andrew, and it is Thomas Fadone II. Or is it Fedoni? I don't know how you say it.
I've been saying Fadone, but I could be wrong.
I think it's Fadone too. But this kid out of Nebraska, listen to these measurables, Andrew. Just measurables alone here, okay? 6'6", 255 pounds, 11-inch hands, 34-inch arms. This guy's got a catch radius like you wouldn't believe, and massive hands. He's an immediate seam stretching tight end. Even if you just want to package him in for a couple plays just to do that, right off the bat, he's kind of like, not discount, but like clearance rack Colson Loveland. I'll just clearance rack Colson Loveland. Let's just go with that based on the body type. And the production wasn't the same for Nebraska, but I mean, look at Nebraska's offense. They stunk. They'd only pass the ball, 10 times a game in a lot of cases. Probably. So he wasn't getting a lot of run, but I think he's got a chance to shine at the next level too. And then let's get on to the offensive line and hit a few guys here. I was looking through this offensive line group, Andrew, and I don't know if you agree, but I like the interior group better than the tackle group. Is that kind of your thought as well?
I think it's definitely deeper once you get to that later third, fourth round, even into the fifth. I think there's some really solid depth. Developmental guys, you need to add some weight to the frame, technique issues, but a lot of things that can be cleaned up. I think you're going to find a couple starting guards in that third, fourth round, maybe even into the fifth round range.
Yep, good stuff. What is your top sleeper then for the offensive line? You can go either direction here, offensive tackle or interior offensive line, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I'm going to choose my favorite one first. I've got a couple of them I might mention, but Leif Fautanu is a guy that I like. No relation, as far as I know, to the Steelers' Troy Fautanu, but 6'2", roughly 300 pounds. He's got 34-inch arms, so the arm length isn't a concern. Ran a 5.18 in the 40, 22 bench reps. He had a 10-yard split time of 1.81, which is solid, respectable. The shuttle time wasn't great. 26-inch vertical, 8'7" broad. Not an elite athlete, but definitely sufficient. And when you watch his tape, his consistency from game to game. Cam Skattebo had to have some guys in that interior blocking for him. And at Arizona State, he was kind of the catalyst for that offensive line. When you go back and watch the tape, he was very consistent at that center spot. He's a solid run blocker. He has a good pad level against the run. He has a good mindset. He's tenacious. There's a lot of things to like about Leif Fautanu. I think he's going to be a nice backup in the league with a chance to develop into a starter. You're talking probably 5th, 6th round pick. I've got, I believe, a 5th round grade on him right now. I think if you can get him, if he ends up falling undrafted, some team I think is going to find a steal here. But enough athleticism and the production in terms of consistency matches. You watch Arizona State's tape this year, he was absolutely fantastic. So keep an eye on Fautanu as a sleeper here.
I like it. We talked about him on another show. I get the Steelers fix and this one mixed up sometimes for guys what we've talked about, but I know we've mentioned his name before. Yep. I like Clay Webb out of Jacksonville State. Yes. This is a guy who's had a lot of exposure this offseason, and it's been good for him. Senior Bowl standout. He looked good at the combine, ran well, had good measurables, good. And then you go back and match that with the tape, and he was pretty dominant for a small school prospect. You look at some of the edge rushers that, or not edge rushers, I'm sorry, but the defensive linemen that he faced, and he's got some versatility across the interior. I think he's definitely a guard, but you could see him at center, maybe, I think, in this class as well. And it's not a good center class. So some of these guard prospects are going to get moved to center across the league here. He's got the athleticism to do that, even at his size. So I like Clay Webb a lot. And on the consensus board, I mean, he's way down there at prospect 213 overall. I think he's got some upside for an NFL team. I like Tyler Cooper out of Minnesota as well along the interior. Got a couple guys, mostly interior guys that I really like. Joshua Gray out of Oregon State. He's more of a 5th round type prospect. Not as deep a sleeper as some of these other guys, but anybody else that you want to mention real quick before we hit the break and move to defense?
Well, one thing on Clay Webb, I actually do have him listed as a center actually in my rankings. I've got him in the same range as a Jonah Monheim, Seth McLaughlin, Jake Majors. I think all those guys, you're talking probably early day 3. I love Clay Webb. I really do like him. He's got to go a little bit stronger at the point of the attack, but I'm glad you mentioned him. Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. He's a longer body type. He needs to lower the pad level as a run blocker, but he's got a good mindset. He's got pretty solid feet, and just as a really good offseason so far. Had a solid combine, solid pre-draft, everything. Has done a really good job. I think he'll interview well also. Jackson Slater from Sacramento State, who I do believe will be a guard as of right now. That's where I've got him in the rankings. This guy's tough. This guy he's a productive run blocker. You go back and watch the tape there. He is very good, and I believe he can play any scheme, to be quite honest. It's not, I was about to say he's very good in terms of, being able to just run block with, some power. He may not be able to do that quite as effectively in the NFL, but I believe this guy is versatile enough. He can handle any type of blocking scheme. Jackson Slater's another guy I like. And then Logan Brown from Kansas, a little bit stiff. Maybe he moves inside the guard, but a solid tackle prospect, developmental guy with some traits, some upside. I think he'd be a nice guy to gamble on once you get to that 4th, 5th round.
All righty. Good stuff on the offense. We're going to go ahead and take a break. It's been a long-winded first half, but we are going to keep it rolling here with these sleepers. There's so many guys to get to, and it's such an important part of this process. So stick with us. Come back for the second half of the show. We will be right back after this. And we're back here on the Draft Dynasty Podcast. We are working into the defensive side of the football here on our annual Sleepers episode. Andrew, we've been doing pre-draft stuff for, I don't know, 3-4 years now, whether it's the Steelers fix, where we would just sometimes break away and do this for, all 32 teams as kind of a look at sleepers in this draft. This goes back to the very early days of the fix and talking fantasy football with you on things. We did a lot of stuff early on, and now this show, the Draft Dynasty show, where we get a chance to talk about these guys. It's a lot of fun. Getting a chance to do this with you is a blast, and it's always good to get your insights on these guys too. You know more about these guys than I could ever know. I pick out my favorites, man. Some of these sleepers, and I spend a lot of time on those guys, and sometimes I miss out on some others. But let's get going on the defense. And let's start up front on the defensive line, and let's talk about the interior guys first before we get to the edge rushers. This is a deep group as well. Interior defensive line. You've got a lot of good prospects here. A lot of guys who are going to go early. We could see a run on these guys on day 2, even on in the first round. There's a chance that some of these guys start sneaking into the first round. But outside of those guys, who sounds good to you as a sleeper prospect at defensive tackle in this draft?
Well, first off, I appreciate that, and the feeling is mutual as well. Enjoy doing it with you. Defensive line, it's interesting because as good as the top of it is, there's definitely a drop off. Once you get to that 4th, 5th round range, I was really struggling this year to find some guys that I absolutely love. And there's a few guys that, I think Deion Walker's intriguing because of his size. I think he could be a guy that could plug up the middle. He's a guy that I find interesting. I think Anees Peebles from Virginia Tech, the big concern with him is just that length. I just don't know if he has that length. But he's an intriguing guy in the right system. I think if the Rams got him, they could do something with him. They've worked with plenty of guys with the shorter arm length. They have a couple right now. So those are a couple names. But the one that I guess is the biggest guy and biggest, saying literally, would be Desmond Watson, the nose tackle from Florida. He did not run a good 40 at all, but for his size, it was incredible. It was like a high 5-second 40. But man, at 464 pounds, it's hard to imagine. But just for the sake of bringing him in against teams that want to run the tush push, this could be the one solution to being able to stopping that, because he is if there was a such thing as a 3-gap defender, I think that I think that Watson could be close to that. Not quite a 3-gap, but at 464 pounds, he actually moves pretty well. He can penetrate enough. Once you get to that 6th, 7th round, it's about traits. It's about upside. It's about, what can you get? What can you get this guy for a certain package? If I can get Desmond Watson as a goal line guy, to me, he's worth a spot on the roster. And if I think this guy has a chance to make the roster, I think he's a piece that I can actually use week in and week out, he's worth a 6th or 7th round draft pick. So I think Desmond Watson, and people may make jokes about, people may laugh about, the biggest guy, we want to draft the biggest ever guy. I'm telling you, if some team drafts him in the 7th round, it would not shock me at all if this guy drops a little bit of weight to become a little bit more mobile and actually becomes a pretty good run stuffing first down and goal line nose tackle.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not take a shot at it? It's a severe outlier that we've never seen before, and maybe it works. Maybe it's 2 to 3 years of epic run stuffing, and nobody can get through your run defense, and you just work them off the field when you need to rush the passer. Who knows? There's some upside there. If I were the Eagles, I would make him a priority on day 3 so nobody else can get him in my division and start stuffing my tush push game. Mm-hmm. Let me go with a guy that I don't know. Let me look here. Let me go with a homer pick here a little bit. Ty Hamilton, Ohio State. He's not getting the run that Tyleik Williams is. And Williams is just a much better athlete overall and higher ended prospect. I think Tyleik Williams should be in the first round consideration on the back end for a team like the Chiefs, maybe, who needs a kind of an athletic interior piece to develop and see what happens with him behind Jones over there. But when you're looking at the other Ohio State defensive tackle, Ty Hamilton, don't forget about him. He's got some upside. He's got some traits as well. This is a big dude. He's got good length and, right at around 300 pounds. He's more of like um, he's what you would want like a pass rushing defensive tackle to be, like a 3-tech or maybe even play out at 5 technique in a 3-4 defense. But he's got some good traits, and I think that he's being overlooked a little bit in this draft class. Him and then the SMU kids. There's 2 of them that I really like, but Elijah Roberts is the one that I really like. I think that he's got some traits that are very intriguing for teams looking for a 3-tech type defensive tackle as well. And so those are just kind of the guys I like as well. That body type, that size and height, weight, and length, and everything like that. So I like those 2 guys specifically. Anybody else at defensive tackle that you like, Andrew?
If they were to fall to the 5th or 6th round, I think Tyrene Ingram Dawkins and I think Nazir Stackhouse could be a couple intriguing names. You did mention Jabari Caldwell the other week. I think there's a good chance he falls to day 3, and he's a solid nose tackle pickup as well.
Yep. And then JJ, is it Peggy's? Is that how you say it? Peggy's. Yep. There's no more fun prospect to go turn on the tape for, because every game he touches the rock on offense and like this wildcat type thing on the goal line when there's an opportunity for that. And he's like jumping over the line of scrimmage and plowing through people. Another one of those, like, do you need a tush push alternative? He's the kind of guy that could provide you something fun in that regard. He can play some special teams as well because of his twitchiness, athleticism. So I like that. Okay, let's move to the edge rushers, Andrew, and I'll just let you jump right into it. Give me some edge rushers that you really like in this class. A lot of the top guys are going to go right in that first round range. I could see as many as 8 edge rushers go in the first round. So we'll see how it plays, but there's some guys down the list too that need some love.
I'm going to mention one name that I know is familiar because I mentioned him several times, but I still don't know how he's not getting the love. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina. I know this guy is not the best athlete, but if there was a such thing as an it factor for an edge rusher, he has it. He has that knack for getting after the quarterback. He's got a great feel in pursuit. He finds ways to get to the quarterback. He's very good with his hands. He's got enough bend. He's got enough athleticism to get the job done, even though he may not be elite in any one area. And the production speaks for itself. It seems like every other week during the season, Jeremy, we were talking about this guy as an NFL draft riser because he was always producing against good competition. He and Demetrius Knight from South Carolina, these are 2 guys that they showed up and they produced. I know Knight had a little bit better production scores at the combine than what Kennard had. But when you just watch the tape and throw out the measurables, this guy's got it. And I think he can either add weight and play as down lineman, or you can play him as an early down edge rusher in a 3-4 system as a stand-up linebacker. I think he can play either. You don't want him to drop into coverage per se, but if you're talking about being able to play the run at a solid level, needs to add a little bit more sand to the pants. I think needs to get a little bit stronger in his lower body. But I mean, at the collegiate level, he did a very good job as a run defender overall. And then as a pass rusher, he's just got an incredible feel. So I absolutely love Kyle Kennard. And I'll just mention a couple names real quick. Q Robinson, who I do like him. I think he can be a very good special teamer, could be a rotational pass rusher. And then Fadil Diggs from Syracuse. I think that this guy wouldn't. Did I steal your guy?
Both of them. Q Robinson and Fadil Diggs. Those are my boys. Good stuff. No, I love it. I think that it means we're on the same page. We've had a couple crossovers that we just haven't like pointed out, but this one is the first one where I'm just like, absolutely, these 2 guys, they're my kind of guys too. Like that lean athleticism, that like muscled up build that you just love to watch them play ball. Q Robinson has versatility, and he might be like, if I'm picking a guy that I want for my special teams in year 1, he might be the guy for me in this draft class. He can do a lot for you on special teams. But then Fadil Diggs out of Syracuse too, just twitched up guy, lots of juice there, lots of fun to watch. I was also going to mention Tyler Barron out of Miami. He's got some of that juice as well. He's 260 pounds. He's a little bit bigger. than like Q Robinson is, but long, good, long arms, heavy hands, probably just a pass rusher at this point, but he might round into form a little bit more. But those were the three guys I was going to mention, and led by Q and Fadil there. That I'm curious too. Was it those same kind of traits that drew you to them?
Very similarly, I think Q was just consistency, and then Diggs. There's still some rough areas of his game technically, but I mean, if you're talking about just the traits in general combined with the athleticism, it's enough to warrant a day 3 selection. I don't know. What round would you say if you had to put a guess, like wherever your grade would be? Where would you grade him as? 4th, 5th, 6th round pick?
Diggs is probably a 5th round pick for me. He's gonna fall right in that range. Like I wouldn't mind, like if you're a team that needs a developmental guy, but you don't need to throw him into the lineup right away, that I would love to grab him in the 5th round. But I do think that he needs a year and a half to really get his feet wet in the NFL level and kind of rotate in, spell some guys if needed. But then I think he'd be ready to jump in as a more major contributor sometime in year 2.
I agree with that. And I've got him as like a mid to late 5th round grade. One other name I'll mention real quick, Barron Sorrell. If he falls to day 3, he's kind of on that borderline right now. But he tested better than what I thought he was going to. I didn't think he was going to run fast at all. I believe he ran a sub 4.740, which was really solid for him. Not a great athlete, but he plays fast and he's got really good closing speed. So this is another guy. I like those Barons from Texas. But Barron Sorrell, I think in that 4th round range, if you can get him there, I think he's be a really solid pickup.
Yeah. You can't call this guy a sleeper, but maybe my favorite pass rusher in this draft is Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. He's so fun to watch. Yeah. So I don't think you can call him a sleeper. Maybe he's like a late day 2 guy that needs to be going earlier than that, if you want to call him that kind of sleeper. But
underrated.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get to the off-ball linebackers here. There's been some, I mean, you don't have to go too far down this list to start finding the sleepers here, Andrew, the 4th round guys and after. But you've got your surefire 1st round guy like Jahad Campbell, and I know you actually had him falling out of the 1st round of your most recent mock draft. So maybe I'm wrong that he's a surefire 1st rounder, but he's got that type of upside. But you got guys like Carson Schwessinger that's rising up boards. That could be, he's kind of working the rounds. We did some rumors on the show last week that he was moving up the board. But then not too much further down the list, you start to get into the sleeper category. So who you got here at off-ball linebacker that you really like?
Well, for Campbell, the only reason he fell out is just because of that injury concern. In general, I have him ranked as a top 10 player in this draft. I think we both do. Just imagine if Philly were to get him at the end of the 1st round. Just imagine that. No, I don't want to jinx it, but I could see it happening in the right situation. But a couple guys down the list, Sean Dolak from Buffalo, talking about just production. I know he doesn't have the measurables, barely 30-inch arms, 6 foot, 221. But you can't make up 168 tackles, 81 solo, 5 interceptions, and 6 sacks in 1 year. That's impressive. And he ran a 4.63 40, which is like right at that borderline mark of acceptable. So he's a smaller version of Jack Campbell, not as long. But if you had a mini version of Jack Campbell, that's who Sean Dolak is in terms of his ability to make tackles in the open field, his ability to come downhill. I mean, tackling was never a major concern for him in college, but he had a 6.93 in the 3-cone. That's a big time there for him. 35.5-inch vertical, 4.22 shuttle time. He was really good across the board in his workout outside of the size, and he can't fix that. But I think this guy's going to come in. He may have to work on special teams first. He may have to do whatever, but I think he's going to claw his way into our roster, and he's going to be a productive linebacker for years to come. 2 other names I'll mention. And I don't have a bunch at this position, but Smael Mondon, 6'2", 224. There are some medical concerns. He's got that foot injury he's been nursing, but he's a sound tackler. He's fluid in coverage. He ran a 4.58 40. I thought he'd run faster than that, but it's not a deal breaker. 10'10" broad jump. Overall, when you watch his tape with that length, he's got a chance to create more turnovers at the next level too in coverage. He's very smooth in coverage. I think you could see some more turnovers at the next level. And then Carson Bruner son of former Steeler Mark Bruner. 6'1", 227. Not the most athletic dude in the world, but he did run a 4.58 as well at the combine. He had over 100 tackles this past year, had 3 picks. Pretty solid in coverage. Not a huge threat as a blitzer at this point, but if you're talking about a guy who fits the modern day outside of the ability to blitz, I think that he's a guy who could be a nice role linebacker depth piece.
I like those guys. I do. You're right that it's slim pickings at linebacker. I like Mondon Jr. Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon is very intriguing. He's got good measurables, and the tape's really good for him too. But the guy that's just kind of like, let's just throw it back to pure linebacker, downhill, play the run type guy from the 90s and 2000s. If it were still that time frame, Jack Kaiser would be a first round pick out of Notre Dame.
Yeah,
this guy is like neck roll, come downhill, blow you up in the hole, leader, get your defense pumped up type guy. Kind of reminds me, I don't know, this may not be a good comp for like body type or whatever, but attitude wise, he very much reminds me of Robert Spillane. Just the way that he plays ball and comes downhill. So definitely not a body type comparison, I wouldn't say, but 6'2", 231, that's a rocked up linebacker. In a world where a lot of these guys are down in the 210s and 220s now, he's still got enough size on him where he can make you feel it in the hole. I like Jack Kaiser there.
I like him a lot too, and I'm glad you mentioned him. He was one player that I forgot to mention, but I wanted to. Not elite athlete, but if you're talking about a team, either the LA teams, the Rams or the Chargers, and the right role in that defense as a guy who can just be that tackle machine in the middle. He's got good instincts. He's a leader. You don't have to worry about him. I was thinking of a comparison for him, and I had one. I couldn't think of the name, but as a former Notre Dame linebacker, it's kind of on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. He was drafted by the Chargers. I believe it was Drew Tranquill. Tranquill.
There you
go. Different type of play style, but I think you're going to see similar production from them. They're both going to rack up a lot of tackles. They're going to be nice players in the NFL.
And you can wait on these guys. I mean, you really can in the draft and still get somebody who can impact, whether that's just special teams or whether that's on defense for a few plays here and there. And linebackers, I always say linebackers are like the tight ends of the defense, where you can't just throw them in there in a lot of cases and expect elite production. Even the top guys, like, they need a chance to learn the calls, learn the signals. They're the guys who control the defense from the back end to the front end. They kind of put it all together, and you have to be able to rush the passer, stop the run, drop back into coverage. You've got to do more things. You have more responsibility as an off-ball linebacker than a lot of position groups do. So give these guys some time. It's why guys like Fred Warner needed time. 2 years into the league, it was like, who is this guy? And then year 3, he was all over the place. And even a guy like Ryan Shazier, his first year in the league, there were some ups and downs. You're like, what's this going to look like? Year 2, though, he started to put it together, and you were like, what do we have here? Maybe the next great linebacker. And still, the injury for him, one of the most unfortunate things I've ever seen in football. Glad he's doing so much better from that. But let's move on, Andrew, to the defensive backs. Let's get to cornerback first. And I'll be honest with you.
I have a rant I want to do on the corners, because I've got so many of these nickel corners on day 3. Could we by chance, I know I'm doing this on the spot, could we by chance go to the safeties first?
Okay, yeah, let's do it then. Let's do it. Because we want that Andrew Wilbar rant. We haven't had a good one in a while. So let's do that. Let's go to the safeties then and talk about these guys. I like this safety class overall. I think that there's some good players here. And it doesn't have to just be in the first round, but we talked about the trend at safety where a lot of these guys played nickel too, right? There's like a lot more versatility there. You don't see as many true strong safeties. I bet you though, Andrew, you're going to find one for us in this sleeper section here. So let's talk about it. Who's your top sleeper at the safety spot?
My top sleeper, again, I don't want to say but one that I mentioned before, but I've got to go with Malachi Moore from Alabama. He's kind of a corner safety mix. You can play him at free. You can play him as kind of a nickel safety. Everyone talks about, Well, yeah, he was a good producer for Alabama, consistent. Okay, well, why isn't he going higher? Well, he's not the greatest athlete. Brian Branch did not run the greatest 40 time. Malachi Moore ran a 4.57, but if you look at him across the board, 5'11", 197, not the most dominant athlete that we've ever seen in Alabama secondary, but 4.57 40, had a 36-inch vertical, 10'6" broad jump, 15 reps on the bench. Across the board, he's really not that bad of an athlete in an offense where he isn't forced to play a bunch of press. I mean, if this guy was playing corner, I'd be a little bit more concerned about the speed. But most likely, he's going to be playing more of a free safety role in the NFL anyways, can play a little bit of the slot too. But he tackles well in the open field. He's got good technique. He's got solid instincts. He makes plays on the ball. He's got good ball skills. I think Malachi Moore has a chance to be a starter, or at the very worst, a really good rotational third safety in the NFL. People are very much sleeping on him. He's probably going to go 5th, 6th round. I think that some teams could potentially come away with a diamond in the rough here. Malachi Moore is a guy I would be pounding the table for, and round 5 or round 6 if he's still there.
I love it. I like his tape too. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's kind of like that spark plug defensive back where you just let him do his thing, right? And you'll have him on an assignment, but if he's going to do it, he reminds me of DeMonte KZ, the way he plays, just kind of off the chains a little bit, moving around the back end of the field. But he's a good player. I like that one a lot. I like a couple guys. I like Hunter Waller out of Wisconsin. He's kind of a well-rounded player. He can do multiple things for you. But if I had to pick one safety that I think we're sleeping on this guy too much, and I think that he could be in play for the Steelers because of the ties here. It's Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland. Yeah. He's not the biggest guy, but I think he's almost 5'11", 195 pounds, but he plays bigger than that. He plays with a thump and a thud behind the pads. That's really impressive. He's rangy. He's fast. He's got a lot of traits that you like. I think he's going to help you on special teams right away. I think he can be versatile for you on defense. If I've got a 6th round pick and I haven't addressed safety yet for like a team that needs it, then I would be looking his way. The other guy for me is Craig Woodson. That's a good safety name, right? A good secondary player name, Woodson. So I like Craig Woodson. Maybe a chance at in more of a spotlight type situation. I think that he would be a little bit higher on boards, but playing for Cal didn't give him the exposure that he needed, I don't think. He's a good player, though. I really like him as well.
Yeah, I like that. Katan Crawford, a guy who tested really well from Nevada. One other name I'll mention is a deep sleeper. Again, I don't believe has ties to the Austin Eckler, but Wyatt Eckler from Wyoming had a very impressive pro day. The production did not match, which is why I think he will go a little bit lower. But if you're talking about pure upside and a guy who's very sound tackler for the most part, Wyatt Eckler, about 5'10.5", about 200 pounds, going to play more of a high safety role. He had a 4.4 in the 4.44 40, had a 6.83 cone time, Jeremy. This guy can change direction quick. Yeah. Very clean, coming downhill, 4.24 shuttle time, 41.5-inch vertical, and a 141 or 131-inch broad jump. Ooh. This guy is a very good athlete across the board. Wyoming's had a couple of these guys. I remember Andrew Wingard coming out, and I think he's a better athlete than Andrew Wingard was. Very productive safety. I think Wyatt Eckler is a guy who's going to play a lot of special teams, could be a really good gunner on special teams, and I think is a guy that has the traits to develop. He may never play a down at safety, but there's that chance that he could develop into a really, really good piece. And I'm willing to take that risk in the 6th, 7th round. I think I've got like an early 6th round grade, I think, on Wyatt Eckler right now. It's traits based, yes. But I think we've seen enough of him on tape and just his ability to tackle, his ability to diagnose. I think that's enough to warrant a late round selection with his athleticism.
I like it. All right, let's get to the corners, Andrew. And I'm just going to open the floor up to you. Tell me what you want to tell me. Rant away about this cornerback group. What you got?
Well, there's a lot of guys that are very undersized in this class. I understand that. Once you get to day 3, that's what you're dealing with, though. You're dealing with good athletes a lot of times. Well, they're undersized. Well, they're playing inside. Well, where are a lot of these top receivers playing at now? They're playing inside. They're playing in the slot. And I know that some of these guys don't have the physicality, don't have the athleticism. Some of these guys are going to fizzle out. But it seems like every time we do this sleeper show, I come up with some guys that just I find intriguing from these small schools that, some of these guys I'm going to mention are not from small schools. Some of them are. And I don't have as many this year as what I have in some previous years. Sometimes I'll list off 20 guys that could be a nickel option for you in the 7th round from, Valdosta State. But I've still got a few that I'm going to mention here. Marquise Robinson from Arkansas. He's a little bit bigger guy. He has a chance to play on the outside, 6 foot, 192. He had 13 pass breakups in 2022, 2024 combined. Kind of had an off year in 2023. I'm not sure if he's fully healthy. Ran a 4.45 in the 40, 4.38 shuttle time, 34.5-inch vertical. Solid athlete. He had 4 tackles for loss this year, 1 forced fumble. He plays the run pretty well. I think most likely he will play nickel in the NFL. Team may try to play him on the outside, but when you watch his tape, he was best at nickel. Jacob Robinson's a guy that really excites me from BYU. If you go back and watch BYU's tape on defense this year, they had a great secondary for the most part. 5'10", 181. Undersized, but 4'3", 940, 701 in the 3-cone, 38.5-inch vertical. He has played 4 years at BYU. He's a transfer from Utah State. But over his career, over those 4 seasons at BYU, 21 pass breakups, 11 picks. This past season, he had 3 picks, 5 passes defended, 5 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. This guy supports the run. He's going to be a really good nickel defender, I believe, in the NFL. He needs to add a little bit more weight. He doesn't blitz like Mike Hilton, but if you're talking a man coverage, plays very similar to Mike Hilton, minus the blitzing, but still it'd be worthy of taking him, as a later round pick. Dante Kent from Central Michigan, 5'10", 187, 4.38, 40, 38.5-inch vertical. Another guy with athleticism. This past season, played in 12 games, had 53 combined tackles, a tackle for loss, but 9 passes defended. Go back to 2022, though. Central Michigan had some really good teams, and they were really good, then really bad. It was kind of a little up and down time for the Chippewas there. But in 21 and 2022 combined, those 2 seasons, he had 29 pass breakups. 29, 14 and 21, 20, and then 15 the next year. This guy has the ball skills. The production is dipped. The role has changed. The scheme has changed. Everything's different. But he's got it in him. When you go back and watch his traits, he's a guy that excites me a lot as kind of a later day 3 type guy. Kendall Paul from East Texas A&M. A&M. And I'm sure you've seen this guy before, Jeremy. But if you're talking about the speed, 4.27 in the 40, very undersized. I mean, we're talking like who was the corner that Washington drafted in the 1st round a couple years ago when they were still a football team, I think.
Oh man, his name's gonna slip me too, but I know who you're talking about. Just so small.
But he just didn't have the size, and it killed him. He's pretty much already been labeled as a bust. But Kendall Paul, 5'8.5", almost 5'9", 162. He's got to get a little bit bigger than that. But he's got every trait you want, especially with the speed. He's exciting. Fentrell Cypress from Florida State. He's got 4.4 speed, 6 foot, 182. I think if he has weight, he could play on the outside. But in 2022, he led the ACC in pass breakups. The production's tapered off again the last couple of years. But again, another guy probably you can pick up undrafted. You're talking about Terrence Spence from James Madison. He had, I believe it was 5 interceptions this past year. He's got good ball skills, had a 40-inch vertical to his pro day, 6'9", 4.3 cone. Ethan Robinson is the other guy I'm going to mention from Minnesota. 5'10", 195, 4.55, 40, but 42-inch vertical, 6'9", 4 in the 3 cone. These are all via Alex Katzen of his, who does all of the pro day results tracker. So if a couple of the numbers are a little bit off, I'm going to mention that, but overall, he does a really good job tracking all this. 3 picks, 8 pass breakups this year. He's got good ball skills. He's got really good instincts, plays good off the ball. And then Jack Henderson, who's more of a safety, I think, at the next level, 6'1", 203, also from Minnesota. Very good athlete. 6'8", the 3 cone, 39.5-inch vertical, 10'8" broad, 10'8" broad jump. This guy's all got really good athleticism. Robinson, Henderson, they played really good for Minnesota this past year in the secondary. So I know I went a little long there, but those are some of the corner safeties to keep an eye on in that late day 3 undrafted free agency that could be some diamonds in the rough, developable guys for traits.
I like it. With that in mind, I'm going to just mention one name, and it's just because you know me, I'm a sucker for these outlier height, weight, speed guys at corner. I like Devin Kirkwood out of UCLA. I mean, I don't know if you know much about Kirkwood, Andrew, but he was a guy that caught my eye a couple days ago when I was looking through just the list of corners on like NFL Draft Buzz, where you're just looking through the list of guys. And he popped out to me as 6'3", 205 pounds, and he still ran like a 4.5 40. He's got decent athleticism, but he is long, And he's got return man capability, Andrew, as well. There's some return skills on his tape when he gets the ball in his hands. So he's an intriguing player to me, and he's going to go undrafted. But if you're going to go undrafted, go for a guy with high-end traits like that. And like I said, you know me, I like those guys. The one in the draft that I really like is Frazier. He's got some upside for me, but he's going to go probably in the third or fourth round. So wouldn't necessarily label him as a sleeper. But so
I think teams are a little bit concerned about in terms of Frazier. I think he could fall a little bit. Honestly, I like him as well. I'm glad you mentioned him because I was going to mention him here as a traits guy. Reminds me a lot of former UTEP corner who's now with the Seattle Seahawks, and I forget his name every time we talk about him. But when you were mentioning your UCLA guy, the tape is really good. I think the only reason that he's probably going to go undrafted is just because he had a really, really bad pro day. Like pro day numbers were absolutely awful across the board. But when you throw the numbers out and just look at him, he has that lengthy body. He has those long strides. There's definitely, at the very least, some special teams value there. He might be able to stick somewhere. If not, you're talking like a very, very high-end CFL prospect.
Yeah. And the guy we were searching for the name of, Emmanuel Forbes, for the Washington Commanders, then football team.
Tariq Woolen was the Seahawks corner.
Yes, Tariq Woolen is the one you're thinking of, UTEP corner. So, okay. Hey, this is good stuff. Anything else you want to throw in here before we lock this one up and load it in for submittal here?
Well, I haven't finished all of the breakdowns at some of the positions, but I will have them included in the Sleepers article. So make sure you check that out. That will probably go up early next week. The Sleepers article, I'm still working on that. And one receiver, I guess, I'm glad you mentioned Nick Nash because I want to mention him as well. My one concern is that he won't separate as good as he did in college, but the way that this guy snags the ball out of midair, he may not need to. He's not the traits guy, but I mean, based on speed, 4.57, 4.58, he's so productive. At San Jose State, he was another guy we mentioned throughout the year. It seemed like every other week we were mentioning him, 150, 200-yard games. He found ways to produce, and those guys somehow have ways of sticking in the NFL, even when we don't think they have the athleticism to do it. Nick Nash is a guy I think he is going to find a way to make himself a role in the NFL.
Love it. Good stuff. Andrew and I are going to have a bunch of stuff coming out on the website over the course of this last week of NFL draft prep. We're both going to have Steelers mock drafts. We're both going to have full NFL mock drafts. I'm only going one round deep, but I know Andrew's working on his big 7-round every pick NFL draft. And he doesn't just go cheap on this one and let everybody pick from their own spot. There are trades on day 3 in this mock draft that Andrew puts together. So I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, Andrew, but this is a big deal for you every year, way more than anything I put together. But I'm excited to see it. I really am.
Yeah, I got the Brock Purdy Mr. Irrelevant pick right a couple years ago, so I still hold on to that as why we need to have a day 3 mock sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to sit here and say that being more focused on the first round helped me out a lot last year. I got 12 player to team matches right in my draft last year. That's never going to happen again. But we're going to try to get in double digits again this year, Andrew. We'll see how it goes. But a lot of fun. And we're going to be here on this show. It's going to run instead of Friday like you're used to. It's going to run Thursday before the draft. So do not miss the last episode of the Draft Dynasty podcast on Thursday of the draft before the selection process starts. Even if you're listening to it on the drive home from work, an hour before the draft starts, get in and listen to it. It's going to be our final mocks. It's going to have a lot of good information in it. And that's going to do it for us here on a lengthy Draft Dynasty podcast. We hope you stuck it out to the end. And we will talk to you guys next time here on the Draft Dynasty podcast. Keep drafting, everybody.